Brendan the Terrible, Ireland's new housing czar with a €430,000 salary. In a bold move that's stirring up quite the buzz in Leinster House, Taoiseach Micheál Martin is hitching his wagon to a new housing czar. But not everyone is on board with this decision. The opposition is raising eyebrows, and even some members of the government, particularly from Fine Gael, are questioning the wisdom of this choice. Yet, Micheál seems unfazed, focusing solely on tackling the pressing housing crisis that has gripped the nation. "I will do everything that I possibly can to make that happen," he declared passionately in the Dáil, trying to steer the conversation back to housing delivery rather than the controversial appointment of this new czar. And while we're at it, let's clarify. There won't be a Tsarina in sight unless Minister for Housing James Brown is confusing Brendan McDonagh, the head of NAMA, National Asset Management Agency, with someone else entirely. Brown has made it clear that he wants Brendan to take the reins as the first czar of the Housing Activation Office, HAO. Initially, it was going to be called the Structural Housing Activation Task Force, but that name didn't stick. As of now, the identity of this new housing overlord remains a mystery, with the Taoiseach unable to reveal Brendan's name during leaders' questions. No decision has been made in terms of any individual. The government will decide, and the minister will progress that in the time ahead, Micheál insisted, trying to smooth over any ruffled feathers after Brown's comments stirred some discontent among Fine Gael members. A spokesperson for Taoiseach Simon Harris even suggested that such a significant appointment should have been discussed at the leadership level before any names were thrown around. It would be quite the blow for Brown if his preferred candidate doesn't land the job. Talk about a case of so close yet so far. But fear not, the announcement of this new czar is just around the corner, likely to be revealed on Thursday. The Taoiseach is eager to welcome this new housing authority figure, seemingly baffled by the opposition's outrage over the hefty salary attached to the position. Brendan is set to transition from NAMA to the HAO, bringing along a staggering €430,000 salary, which Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou McDonald has described as gold-plated. She didn't hold back, calling it cracked, and expressing her shock at such a high salary for what she views as a job share situation, suggesting that Czar Brendan will essentially be doing the minister's job, but for a lot more cash. Labour leader Ivana Bacik took a moment to reflect on Fianna Fáil's housing policies over the past 5 years, criticizing them for clinging to their housing for all policy while now resorting to a more haphazard approach. "You are flying kites, Taoiseach, and no one can keep up," she remarked, implying that even his coalition partners in Fine Gael are being left in the dark. Micheál, looking sharp in his papal funeral suit, must be feeling the weight of these discussions. But what about this new role that Brown has hinted at? Fixer-in-chief for housing? Interestingly, the Taoiseach isn't fond of the term czar, due to its Russian implications, even though Ivana pointed out that our new housing leader comes with a price tag reminiscent of an oligarch. Ireland's first housing czar, Brendan the Terrible Big Salary, is stepping into a role that many believe should have been handled by the minister himself. Bacik was left scratching her head, asking, "What exactly is the Housing Activation Office? What will it do?" All she's heard so far is some vague talk about boots on the ground and coordinated delivery. Perhaps she should take a closer look at the minister's statement, which promises that the HAO will do what it says on the tin, and will have the agility to troubleshoot. This sounds thrilling. In essence, it's a dedicated team focused on activating stalled sites and getting shovels moving. Led by a chief executive who may appear to be a mild-mannered banker, this team is described as a lethal force, ready to engage and align stakeholders to unblock housing development. It's a task that seems to have eluded the best-paid minds in the government and their advisors. Micheál was quick to clarify that the HAO isn't some hidden gem. It's been part of the government's program all along. In fairness, the idea for the HAO didn't originate with Fianna Fáil, but was suggested by the Housing Commission, a report that even the opposition welcomed. Now, the time has come to assemble a top-notch team to tackle the housing crisis and do the jobs that many highly paid individuals are already supposed to be handling. We need all hands on deck in relation to housing. We need to unblock barriers on the ground, he emphasized. And that's where our czar comes in, dubbed the government's Mr. Muscle, ready to kick down doors, knock heads together, and aggressively prioritize housing development like a superhero on a mission to unclog the nation's housing system. But who will take Brendan's place at NAMA? Perhaps Robert Wood, currently making waves at the Department of Health, could be seconded to fill the gap. He's pulling in a salary above €300,000, so he'd need a bump to match Brendan's level. Or maybe one of the 30 chief executives running commercial state bodies, who are also eyeing significant pay increases, could step in. Cian O'Callaghan from the Social Democrats raised concerns during leaders' questions, pointing out that while the government is creating a new €430,000 position for the Housing Tsar, they're also looking to increase salaries for senior executives in semi-state organizations. It seems there's no talk of belt-tightening or cost-cutting when it comes to these gold-plated salaries, even amidst economic challenges. So, as the dust settles on this new appointment, one thing is clear: the housing crisis is a hot topic, and Brendan the terrible big salary is stepping into a role that many hope will bring about real change.